Hey everyone, and welcome back to your favorite place where it's all about Greek mythology. Today, we're diving into one of the most mysterious and fascinating parts of Greek mythology, the underworld. I've always been captivated by these stories because they show how the Greeks tried to make sense of death, morality, and what might lie beyond. In this video, we're going to explore Hades' realm, from the rivers that shape the journey of the dead to the guardians like Cerberus and Charon, to the courts where every soul is judged. We will see how myth turned fear into meaning and how the underworld reflects both the dark and hopeful sides of human imagination. So, get ready to step into the shadowed kingdom of Hades, and let's uncover what awaited the dead. And, as always, enjoy and have fun.
To the Greeks, death was not the end. It was a passage, a journey from the world of sunlight into a shadowed kingdom beneath the earth. A place ruled not by cruelty, but by order, by inevitability. And upon a throne of black stone sat Hades, the silent king, the unyielding lord of the dead. They called his realm Hades, the unseen, a world where every soul, no matter how great or small, would one day arrive. Not as flesh and blood, but as a shade, a whisper of who they once were. But the underworld was not a single pit of torment, as later tales would tell. It was vast, layered, and structured, a mirror of the mortal world above. There were rivers that sang with sorrow, meadows of pale flowers where the ordinary wandered without memory, and shining fields where heroes feasted forever. There was punishment, yes, but there was also peace and even paradise. To the living, this world was a mystery, glimpsed only in dreams and myths. Priests and poets spoke of it in hushed tones, and mortals left coins for the ferrymen to pay their passage. For all feared the journey that awaited beyond the final breath. And so we ask, what awaited the soul once it crossed that unseen boundary? What lay beyond the veil of life in the realm of shadows where time no longer ruled and every secret was kept in silence? This is the story of Hades and of the kingdom that waits for every mortal beneath the earth, the Greek underworld. Part 1. Hades, Lord of the Underworld. Hades, the unseen one, his very name was rarely spoken aloud, for to call upon him was to remind oneself of death's inevitability. Yet Hades was no demon, no monstrous figure of cruelty. He was one of the great three brothers who divided the cosmos after the fall of the Titans, Zeus ruling the sky, Poseidon commanding the sea, and Hades taking dominion over the silent realm beneath the earth. To the Greeks, he was a paradox, a god both feared and respected, shunned yet essential. He was not the bringer of death, but the ruler of those already taken by it, the keeper of balance, ensuring that every soul found its place and that none escaped the boundaries of their fate. Hades' power was not loud like Zeus, thunder, or restless like Poseidon's tides. His was a quiet power, patient, inevitable, and absolute. He did not rage, he did not boast, he simply was. And in that stillness lay a truth the Greeks understood deeply, that death, like Hades, does not bargain, and it does not forget. In art and myth, he sat upon a throne of obsidian, or dark basalt, carved from the very bones of the earth itself. Beside him often stood Persephone, the radiant daughter of Demeter, whom he had taken to be his queen. Together, they ruled as equals over the shades of the departed. Her presence brought a strange, mournful beauty to his realm, a reminder that even in death there could be renewal, just as spring returns after winter's grip. His symbols spoke of his nature. The helm of invisibility, a gift from the Cyclopes, rendered him unseen even to the gods, embodying his dominion over what lies hidden, what no living eye may behold. His bident, The two-pronged staff mirrored Poseidon's trident, yet lacked its aggression. It was a tool of guidance, not destruction. And the dark chariot drawn by immortal black horses was said to carry him to and from his realm, though few dared to claim they had ever seen such a sight. To mortals, Hades represented an unescapable truth. They feared to utter his name, often calling him Plauton instead, the wealthy one. For from beneath the earth came both the souls of the dead and the riches of the soil, gold, silver, fertile crops. Even in their fear, they acknowledged his generosity. For without death, there could be no life, no cycle, no order. Unlike later interpretations that painted him as cruel, the Greeks did not see Hades as evil. He did not torment without cause, nor did he seek worship. He simply ensured that the laws of the cosmos were upheld. The living belonged to the sunlight, the dead belonged to him. And in that eternal balance, the Greeks found a strange comfort that somewhere, deep beneath the earth, beyond the reach of gods and men, Hades kept his silent watch over all who had ever lived. Not with wrath, not with pity, but with the quiet, unwavering certainty that all roads, in the end, lead home to him. Part 2. The Geography of the Underworld. The Underworld was vast, far greater than mortals ever imagined. It was not a single place of shadow and misery, but a realm divided by order, shaped by the beliefs of a people who saw death not as an end, but as a continuation, a reflection of life itself. Beneath the surface of the living world stretched a landscape both wondrous and dreadful, filled with rivers, gates, plains, and kingdoms of silence. Every soul that entered this realm first faced the 5 rivers, each one embodying a truth of existence, each one flowing endlessly through the depths of Hades' domain. The first and most sacred was the river Styx, the black current of hatred and unbreakable oaths. Even the gods themselves swore by the Styx, for to break an oath made upon its waters was to forfeit immortality. Its surface shimmered with a strange dark light, not the reflection of stars, but of forgotten promises. Those who tasted its water would feel its bitterness forever. It was said even the gods recoiled from its chill. Then came the Acheron, the river of sorrow. It was here that the newly dead first arrived, guided by Hermes the psychopomp. They gathered silently along its misty banks, waiting for Charon, the ancient ferryman, to take them across. His boat drifted slowly over the dark waters, creaking under the weight of countless souls. Those who could not pay his fee, a single obol placed beneath the tongue at burial, were doomed to wander the shore for 100 years, their cries lost in the fog. The third river was Lethe, the river of forgetfulness. Its waters were clear and still, reflecting nothing. Here, souls would drink to forget the burdens of life, their pain, their joy, their very names. Forgetting was mercy. Forgetting was release. And for those destined to be reborn, the draught of Lethe washed clean the memory of all they had been, preparing them to live again beneath the sun. Beyond Lethe flowed the Phlegethon, a river of fire. Its flames did not consume, yet they burned with an eternal glow, illuminating the caverns of Tartarus. It was the boundary between punishment and the rest of the underworld, a river both feared and revered, for it burned with the wrath of divine justice. The poet said that when the gods cast down their enemies, the roar of Phlegethon's fire echoed like thunder beneath the world. And lastly, there was the Cocytus, the river of wailing. Its waters ran cold and slow, filled with the echoes of lamentation. Here, the souls of the unburied and the forgotten wept endlessly, mourning the lives denied proper passage. Their cries mingled with the wind, a haunting sound that even Hades' servants avoided. Beyond these rivers lay the great divisions of the underworld itself, realms suited to the lives each soul had lived. At its lowest depth was Tartarus, the prison of the damned and the defeated. Even the gods spoke of it with fear. It was a place not merely of torment, but of cosmic punishment, where the titans who had defied Zeus were bound in chains, forged by the Cyclopes. There, the walls were made of bronze, and the air shimmered with the heat of the Phlegethon's flames. Time itself seemed to slow, each moment stretching into eternity. It was said that if a bronze anvil were dropped from the heavens, it would fall for 9 days before reaching the earth, and 9 more before touching the floor of Tartarus. Above Tartarus stretched the Asphodel Meadows, the great plain of ordinary souls. Neither cursed nor blessed, they wandered here in a gray twilight, faint echoes of their former selves. These were the countless men and women who had lived without great sin or great virtue, their spirits neither suffering nor rejoicing. They murmured softly among fields of pale, ghostly flowers, asphodels that never withered. Here, memory faded slowly, and existence continued as a gentle shadow of life. Yet there were some who escaped that quiet fate, those whose deeds had lifted them beyond the mortal plane. For the virtuous and heroic, there was Elysium, the Elysian fields. It was a land of eternal light and soft breezes, where music played without end and the air smelled of blossoms. Heroes who had pleased the gods dwelled here in peace, poets, warriors, philosophers, their souls radiant and free. There was no hunger, no pain, only endless spring. To reach Elysium was the greatest hope of mortals, the promise that life's struggle might earn a place among the blessed. And beyond even Elysium, some spoke of a rarer, more distant shore, the Isles of the Blessed. There, the most virtuous of souls who had lived righteously through 3 lifetimes might dwell forever, free from the cycle of birth and death. A paradise beyond paradise, whispered of in dreams and hymns, where the sea shone gold beneath an eternal sun. Such was the geography of the underworld. Not a place of simple punishment, but a reflection of divine justice and human imagination. It was a map of the soul itself, sorrow, remembrance, hope, and oblivion, all woven together beneath the earth. And presiding over it all, unseen yet ever present, sat Hades, the silent king of the realm, where every mortal, sooner or later, would come to rest. Part 3. Guardians and Beings of the Underworld. At the borders of the living and the dead, where shadow meets silence, stand the eternal guardians of the underworld, beings neither wholly divine nor mortal, but forged for a single purpose, to preserve the sanctity of death's domain. Their watch never ends, and their loyalty belongs to none but Hades himself. The first and most feared among them was Cerberus, the Hound of Hades, a creature of monstrous beauty and terror, born from Echidna, the half-serpent mother of monsters, and Typhon, the storm of chaos. Cerberus stood as sentinel at the gates of the underworld, where the path of the Acheron meets the kingdom of the dead. His 3 heads gazed in different directions, one toward the realm of the living, one toward the endless fields of shadow, and one inward, as if guarding secrets even the dead might not know. Each head was said to represent an aspect of death itself, the past, the present, and the future, or birth, life, and decay. His fur was said to shimmer like burnished iron, his eyes burning with the dull red glow of embers buried deep within a hearth. From his mouth dripped venom that could melt mortal bone, and his growl could shake the very stones of Hades' palace. Yet Cerberus was not evil. He was a guardian, loyal and incorruptible. His task was clear. No living soul may enter uninvited, and no dead soul may leave. The poets told of heroes who faced him, Heracles, who wrestled him into submission as one of his labors, Orpheus, who lulled him to sleep with his lyre, and Aeneas, who pacified him with honey and drugs. But each of these was an exception, a myth within a myth. For all others, Cerberus was the unyielding barrier between life and death, the living embodiment of Hades, decree. Beyond the gates where Cerberus stood, another figure awaited those newly arrived, the somber ferryman Charon. Bent and cloaked in tattered gray, his face hidden beneath the hood of centuries, Charon's task was eternal. He guided the souls of the dead across the river Styx in his creaking boat, a vessel blackened by the touch of countless spirits. He spoke little, if at all, and his eyes glimmered like dying coals beneath the shadow of his hood. For passage, he demanded his fee, a single obol, a coin placed under the tongue, or upon the eyes of the deceased before burial. This ritual was sacred, for those who came without payment were doomed to wander the banks of the Styx, wailing for eternity. To the Greeks, this small act of burial and offering was more than tradition. It was an acknowledgement of the cycle, of the debt every soul owed to death itself. Some poets whispered that even Charon was once mortal, cursed to serve forever in this liminal role, neither living nor dead. His oar dipped soundlessly into the black current, carrying souls to judgment, his back forever turned to the world of the living. But not all who served in the underworld were bound by chains or sorrow. Some chose it, beings of power who moved freely between realms. Among them was Hecate, goddess of magic, the crossroads, and the unseen. She was both guide and guardian, the one who stood at the threshold where choices meet, where paths diverge. Cloaked in moonlight and shadow, she carried torches to light the way for wandering souls. Her presence was felt at every boundary, between night and day, life and death, the mortal and the divine. To the Greeks, Hecate was mysterious, even feared. She walked with the dead, commanded spirits, and was invoked in rites of necromancy and protection. Yet she was not malevolent. To those who honored her, she was a guide through darkness, a bridge between the living and the dead, between fate and free will. Her hounds howled at night, and when torches flickered in the wind, it was said that Hecate was passing by. In the deeper halls of Hades, another trio dwelled, the Erinyes, known to mortals as the Furies. Born from the blood of Uranus when Cronus struck him down, they were ancient spirits of vengeance, older than Zeus himself. Their task was simple and merciless, to punish those who had committed crimes against kin, murderers, oath-breakers, betrayers of family. Their presence was terror itself. They appeared as winged women with serpents for hair, eyes dripping blood, and voices that could drive a mortal mad. They pursued the guilty relentlessly, across land and sea, across mortal life and beyond death's veil. No temple, no prayer, no hiding place could shield the wicked from their justice. Even the gods respected and feared their wrath. Yet to the righteous, they were not monsters, but avengers of balance. They restored the order that mortals so often broke. And when their fury was spent, they were called not Erinyes, but Eumenides, the kindly ones. Around them drifted the shades of the dead, countless and silent. These were the remnants of mortal souls, pale, weightless, stripped of memory and passion. They moved like mist across the asphodel meadows, whispering faint echoes of lives long past. Heroes and kings, peasants and poets, all reduced to the same quiet essence. Their eyes were hollow, their voices soft as the wind. When Odysseus journeyed into the underworld, even the shades of great warriors reached for him, desperate for the warmth of life, for remembrance. These beings, Cerberus, Charon, Hecate, the Furies, and the countless shades, formed the living tapestry of Hades' realm. Together, they maintained the rhythm of death, guarding its gates, enforcing its laws, and ensuring that not even a god could defy the natural order. For in the underworld, there was no chaos, no rebellion, only silence, duty, and the eternal procession of souls, watched over by the faithful guardians who stood between what was, what is, and what must always be. Part 4. Judgement of Souls. At the heart of Hades' realm lay the court of judgment, where every soul, from the humblest farmer to the mightiest hero, faced the consequences of their life. Death alone did not decide a soul's fate, for in the underworld, justice reigned supreme, impartial and eternal, guided by the wisdom of 3 judges whose eyes pierced the veil between life and afterlife. The first of these was Minos, king of Crete, now elevated to divine authority. He was wise, fair, and unyielding, his mind sharp as the blade of a sword. Minos listened to the confessions of the dead, weighing their deeds and intentions, discerning truth from deception. His judgments were final, for he understood the subtlety of mortal hearts, their pride, their courage, their selfishness, and their compassion. Beside him stood Rhadamanthus, Minos' brother, whose fairness was tempered by rigor. Known for his unbending sense of law and morality, he judged not only actions but the spirit in which they were carried out. Those who had been cruel, who had betrayed kin or abused power, felt the weight of his gaze, but those who had acted with honor, even if flawed, found their judgment tempered by mercy, for Rhadamanthus knew that life's choices were never simple. The third was Aeacus, the king of the Aegina Islands, renowned in life for his honesty and devotion to justice. In the underworld, he carried the same integrity, ensuring that each soul received its due. His presence reminded mortals that fairness was not merely divine law, but the reflection of virtue itself. Souls arrived at the tribunal after crossing the rivers, passing the guardians, and wandering the asphodel meadows. Some approached with fear, trembling beneath the weight of their deeds. Others with pride, believing their exploits above scrutiny. The judges listened to every tale, every memory, every plea, and with wisdom beyond mortal comprehension, they assigned each soul its proper place. Those whose lives had been virtuous, heroic, or blessed by the gods were sent to Elysium, the shining fields of eternal peace, where music, light, and joy replaced sorrow. Here, souls could dwell in harmony, free from pain, yet aware of their past deeds and the legacy they left behind. Only a few, whose virtue was beyond measure, could ascend even further to the Isles of the Blessed, where immortality and perfection awaited. The majority, however, wandered the asphodel meadows, neither punished nor rewarded. Their lives had been ordinary, their choices neither heroic nor wicked. Here they drifted silently, contemplative, their memories fading slowly as they learned the quiet lesson of balance, that life's actions, whether monumental or mundane, echoed in eternity. Those who had committed grievous sins, broken sacred oaths, or harmed kin were consigned to Tartarus, the deepest pit of the underworld. There they faced torment shaped by their own deeds, punished not by arbitrary cruelty, but by cosmic balance. Even the Titans, though immortal, had fallen into Tartarus' dark embrace, bound and guarded by the Hecatoncheiri, a stark reminder to all that defiance against divine and moral law carried consequences. Through this system, the underworld reflected the cosmic order the Greeks cherished. Life above was fleeting, uncertain, and full of passion. But death below brought clarity, structure, and inescapable justice. The judges served as impartial arbiters, ensuring that every action, every choice, every moral failure or triumph found its mirror in eternity. In contemplating the judgment of souls, mortals were reminded of a profound truth. The echoes of one's life stretched far beyond the final breath. Acts of cruelty, dishonor, and betrayal did not vanish with death. They resonated, shaping the very destiny of the soul. Likewise, kindness, courage, and virtue were not forgotten. Their rewards awaited in realms of light and peace. And so, the court of Minos, Rhadamanthus, and Aeacus stood as the heart of Hades, realm, a place where morality, destiny, and divine balance converged. Every soul who passed through their gaze left changed, either freed to dwell in peace, bound to shadowed routine, or cast into the fiery depths. In their judgments, the Greeks saw a reflection of the order of the cosmos itself, that all deeds, great or small, carry weight, and that in death, as in life, justice always prevails. Part 5. Symbolism and Meaning. The Greek underworld was more than a realm of shadow and shades. It was a story, a mirror, and a lesson. Through the myths of Hades, Cerberus, Charon, the Furies, and the judges themselves, the Greeks sought to understand the great mysteries of existence, the inevitability of death, the nature of morality, and the destiny of the soul. They told these stories not to terrify, but to explain, to show that life, fleeting though it may be, carries consequences that echo beyond the mortal plane. Each river, each guardian, each meadow or pit was a symbol, a lesson encoded in narrative form. The Styx reminded them of the sacredness of promises, the acheron of sorrow that must be faced, the lethe of the peace that comes from forgetting, the phlegethon of the fiery consequences of misdeeds, and the kakatis of the lamentation that follows a life unexamined. The underworld mirrored human fears and hopes alike. The fear of oblivion, of punishment, of wandering aimlessly as a shadow of one's former self, was tempered by the hope of Elysium, the possibility that courage, virtue, and honor might endure beyond death. Even Hades, often feared for his dominion over death, symbolized balance, the natural order that ensured neither chaos nor injustice could rule unchecked. The cycle of life and death was central to Greek thought. Mortals were transient, yet the soul was immortal, traveling from birth to life, from life to death, and, in some traditions, perhaps back to life again. Myths of judgment, of rivers and meadows, of the Isles of the Blessed, reminded humans that life was more than mere survival. It was a moral journey. Every choice mattered, for it shaped the soul and determined its place in the cosmos. Even heroes like Heracles or Orpheus, who descended into the underworld, returned, transformed, their stories teaching that courage and wisdom could transcend mortality itself. And these myths, though ancient, still resonate today. The figures of Hades and Persephone, of Cerberus and Charon, of the Furies and the Judges, continue to fascinate because they reflect truths we cannot escape. Death remains a mystery. Justice, though imperfect in life, is a longing etched into the human spirit, the desire to understand what comes after, to find order in the face of chaos, is as strong now as it was for the poets of Athens and Crete. In every shadowed corner of literature, art, and culture, echoes of the Greek underworld persist, a reminder that the stories of Hades are not just tales of the dead, but reflections of the living, that morality, destiny, and the immortal soul remain central to our understanding of ourselves, that the underworld, though dark and silent, is a mirror of fear, of hope, of what it means to exist, and of what it might mean to endure beyond the final breath. Through these myths, the Greeks gave shape to the unseeable, voice to the silent, and meaning to the inevitable. They showed that even in death there is order, reflection, and a story, one that continues to speak to every soul who dares to listen. The underworld, with its rivers, guardians, judges, and meadows, has long captivated the human imagination. Its mysteries speak to a truth that all mortals must face. Death is inevitable, yet it is not merely an end. Through the stories of Hades and Persephone, of Cerberus, Charon, and the Furies, the Greeks explored what lies beyond life, a realm where every choice, every action, and every soul finds its place. We are drawn to these tales not only by fear, but by curiosity and wonder. What does it mean to die? How does justice persist beyond mortal life? And what hope exists for those who lived with courage, wisdom, or virtue? These questions echo through the myths, through the silent meadows of the dead and the shining fields of Elysium, reminding us that the cycle of life and death is both inevitable and meaningful. And yet, the stories do not end here. The underworld is not static. It is a stage for drama, for love, for courage, and for defiance. Persephone, taken from the surface world into Hades, shadowed halls, teaches us about change, growth, and the intertwining of life and death. Orpheus, descending into Tartarus to retrieve his beloved Eurydice, shows us the power of art, devotion, and human perseverance in the face of mortality. And Heracles, venturing into the depths as part of his 12 labors, reminds us that even the greatest heroes must confront the unknown, emerging transformed by what they witness. In every tale, in every myth, we see ourselves reflected, our fears, our hopes, and our yearning to understand the unseen. The underworld is not just a place, but an idea, a symbol of the journey every soul must take, a mirror of morality, and a reminder that life's deeds echo far beyond the fleeting hours under the sun. And so, as we leave the shadowed realm and return to the world of the living, we carry with us the lessons of its kings and guardians, its judges and heroes. Their stories endure, teaching us that even in the face of death, there is order, there is meaning, and there is the possibility of transcendence. For the Greeks, death was not an end, but a passage into a realm as eternal as the gods themselves, the shadowed kingdom of Hades.
And that wraps up our journey through the Greek underworld. It's incredible to see how the Greeks imagined life after death, with its rivers, guardians, judges, and a delicate balance between punishment and reward. Even though it's a realm of shadows, it's also full of meaning, reflection, and lessons that are still relevant today. Hades' kingdom reminds us that life and death are deeply connected, and that every choice we make echoes beyond the moment. In the next video, we'll dive even deeper into these stories. From Persephone's abduction to Orpheus' daring journey to the underworld, and even Heracles' descent. So stick around, because the stories of the dead are far from finished, and there's so much more to uncover. Please make sure you don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye!